Hey, hey, Leah.
Hi.
I'm good. How are you today?
Good. Are you recovering from yesterday
Oh
from our
my
Zoom class?
God. Oh, I think you know how it went. It was a little rough.
Yeah. I was in Keith's room for block A and then in Grant's room for block B.
Okay.
So trying to get a little taste of everybody. And
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, we were making it work. But Natalia though has I spent 45 minutes in office hours with her, and she's come a long way. So
Good. Good.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Keith.
Hello,
hey,
hello.
Keith.
Hi. Just checking my audio and my visual,
Yeah.
and can't do anything about this, but that's okay.
All right.
All right. So
Looking
I'm.
good.
Hey,
Hey,
Keith.
guys.
Hey,
All right.
hey.
All right. I'm gonna
So,
step
guys, as
back.
you're coming in, wow, we already have a lot of people joining. As you're all coming in, we are going to be just taking the next 15 minutes to give people a chance to get settled. We're going to have a hard start at 1 o'clock. So, once you feel confident your video and audio is working, please go ahead and mute yourselves, both video and audio. We'll have you guys turn back on when we get to the breakout room session. Um, let's see what else. Can you also change your name as it displays on the side to be your name as well as your university or organization? So some of you might be coming in and might say guest when you enter. If you could just change it to be your full name and where you're coming from. Thanks all.
How do I do that? I have to use
Yeah.
the mobile app for some reason. When I try to launch Blue Jeans on my MacBook, it just no video, no audio.
Yeah. So I'm on Blue Jeans on my phone and I don't see how to change it.
Howdy, howdy, y'all testing.
Hey.
Hey, Colin.
Hey guys, just give us a second. Let me see if I can figure that out and I'll let you know, okay? For those of you that
Okay.
are asking about how to change it from mobile.
And I can't see it on my own. I see everybody else's name, but on my own, I don't see how I came in.
Just give me a second. I'll see if I can figure that out. If I can figure it out, I will share that back with you guys. Give me a minute.
Hey, thanks.
No problem.
Sean, is that a baseball jersey I see? I miss baseball.
But does baseball miss you?
Well, that's a fair question.
You know, Colin, I love the fact that your name is floating above your head.
It makes it easier.
It does.
It makes it easier. What y'all probably don't
It's
see
like,
on the bottom, it says Colonnade Memorial Bypass, and it's after a road that was going to cut through my neighborhood.
I was going to compliment you on your innovative use of a "Hello, my name is" tag.
Uh-huh. That's the intent. The just so y'all know, if y'all haven't been following along, baseballreference.com is doing a simulated Major League Baseball season using a number of algorithms. So, might as well have some baseball. You can follow at least some, you know, standings. The Braves are first in the NL East with a 26-13 record in the fake baseball season. And your team,
Six.
listen, I didn't write the algorithms, but if you would like to dig into individual stats or follow your own team on Baseball Reference Simulated Season, I've pasted the link in the chat.
Yeah, I
This
like it.
informative
Thanks.
session is now being brought to a close.
I feel like my audio setup is woefully inadequate, Colin, thanks to yours.
I figured if I had a mic, I might as well use it.
Hello.
Good
Hey,
afternoon.
all. Welcome. We're just using this first 15 minutes for people to test audio and video. We're going to do a hard start at 1 o'clock. So once you've had a chance to test your audio and video, if you could go ahead and mute both. We'll have you turn them back on during the breakout sessions. Thank you. We're also
This is
asking
Charlton.
everybody
Can y'all hear me?
to change their display names if you can to be your full name as well as where you're coming from.
Charleston, I can hear you, man.
Hi, Colin. Can you hear me?
Hi, this is Ying.
I heard someone who was I need to flip back over.
This is Ying. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Ing.
Okay.
Was that you saying hi before that?
Yep.
Hey.
Hey. Hearing all your baseball comments, and I was like, oops, wrong sport. I mean, wrong link, you know?
No, it's not the wrong link. It's important to
It is extremely important.
to follow along with fake sports in the lieu of real sports. So
That is true. Unfortunately, no cricket lovers here.
it's
So.
true. True. They're probably out there somewhere. There's probably a
A
simulated
billion people
season
out
for
there
that,
somewhere.
too.
Yep.
Testing my audio and video.
Andrew, I can hear you. How you doing? I can see you as well.
Good. And you can see my remodel that's going on behind me.
Man, the fun part about this is you get to see everyone's house, and how's the remodel going? That's the question.
Well, we started 2 days ago. I'll show you this part. We're tearing out some walls at the top of the stairway here, and I found 250 square feet of $7 a square foot hardwood floor for $50 on Facebook, and
that's a present.
So we'll be putting hardwood floor up here. It's the kids' playroom. So we took them all out and said, "You guys have to be somewhere else. That's Dad's workstation now."
Very nice.
Fantastic.
I got to do something to keep me occupied from 5:30 until 10 o'clock every night.
Yeah, I could regale y'all with tales of all the different home improvement projects I've knocked out off the to-do list, but I imagine I'm not unique in that in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, but Sarah's trying to get you to stall for time, Colin, and that wouldn't take you very long. So
there you go.
Thanks, Melissa.
But
Sure.
but we could talk about something that Colin is near and dear to his heart, and that is, are they going to move all the Major League Baseball teams to Phoenix so they can play a real shortened season?
So I don't think the Phoenix thing is happening. The most recent thing I've seen is 3 divisions aligned largely by geography. It would put the Braves in the Central Division, and they'd play in their home ballparks so that they wouldn't all have to be quarantined in hotels. So I'm a fan of this. I just need sports. So. For a second there, and I don't know if anyone else saw it, for a second, ESPN2 turned into ESPN the Ocho. And you had cherry pit spitting contest, a rock skipping world championships. There were some good sports for a second there, and I think now we're just I guess watching
on reruns.
Yeah, reruns and Michael Jordan documentaries. So
I remember the early days. I remember the early days with Australian rules football in prime time.
Yeah.
And demolition derbies.
Okay.
Hey, and every now and then, if you turn on ESPN2 late at night, you'll pick up like the cornhole championship, so you can still get that on ESPN2. So
that's head and shoulders above the marble races and cup stacking competitions that I was watching.
this is why Tiger King has been phenomenal.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure who to apologize to. I asked to be part of this call, and then the IUCRC program scheduled something that I have to be on. So I want to say thank you for letting me in. Ask me again but
All
I
right,
have to go
Norman.
to that.
No
So I-
problem.
No worries, Norman. Thank you for joining. We'll still send you all the follow-up stuff, so you'll still get some
I
goodies
appreciate
from
it.
this. Yeah, no problem.
Take care, Norman.
Thanks for jumping on for a second, Norm.
Did you figure out how we could, on a phone app, change our name from guest to name?
I haven't figured that out yet. Amanda,
Okay.
any luck with that? On the mobile app, I haven't figured that out. Just on the just
Yeah, I
on the
haven't
computer.
figured it out for
Okay.
mobile yet.
We got someone testing that out and Googling that, so hopefully we get it sorted.
Okay,
If not,
sorry.
we will
I
be.
can't
If not,
figure
we'll
it.
have 4 guests so far, which is fine. Guys, if you're not on the mobile app and you have the ability to change your display name, please change it to your actual name and your organization. And if you are on the mobile app and you know how to do that, please unmute yourself and tell us how.
Yes. Hey, Colin, where does Pittsburgh end up playing?
You know, I think Pittsburgh got kicked to the Eastern Division for some reason. I heard Atlanta and Pittsburgh got swapped. Atlanta got tossed into the Central 10 teams, which will be interesting. It sets up a nice rematch of the '91 World Series, which has been replayed, unfortunately. And
Every night.
you know, there's a lot of material we're running out of here.
But I heard they went to the East, and I couldn't believe it.
You know, nothing makes sense to me. But, you know, like I said, I'll take sports over non-sports. So if it means a shortened season and we've got to play the Central Division, I'll take it.
So I think what would be really cool is if they go back and show us all of the greats from the Olympics.
That's a fair point.
Anybody?
Anybody going to support her?
Well,
Right.
well,
Come
so
on. We're talking
so
stupid baseball.
I had to show my kids the Michael Phelps 4x100 relay from Tokyo, where they were behind by a full body length, and they made it up in the last leg and won the gold medal on it. It's amazing. If you want to go look it up, it gives you chills.
See? Thank you, Andrew. That's the good
There
stuff.
you go. Yeah,
Such a goody, Andrew.
I try. Come on.
Okay, y'all,
Yeah.
we're getting close to time. We're going to start in a couple of minutes. So
Anyone
thanks
else
again
want to
for
test Mike?
joining. What'd you say, Colin?
I was just saying, anyone want to test their mic? What we're
Yeah.
going to do is we'll have
Last
a
chance for
breakout
romance
and
here.
everyone will get a chance to talk. So we want to make sure that, you know, stuff works while we're talking baseball.
Good afternoon. This is Jose from USF.
Hey, Jose, how are you?
Hey, Jose,
Hi,
Richard
Jose.
Berman. How you doing?
Yeah,
kid?
Richard, I'm doing well, folks. I hope all of you do well, and I'm a big fan of it. I am a big fan of baseball.
Are you possibly logged in on 2 devices right now?
I think there's an echo from someone. If you're on your computer, I see like 5 guests that just says guest. So if you want to click on your name, there's a little edit. Hover over your name. There's an edit.
Can you now?
Whoever
Who's that?
that was, you got an echo.
Still a bad echo.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so you can hear me, but you can't see me.
I don't know who you are. Who are you?
Nakia, we can't see you on there, no.
All right, guys.
Okay,
I'm going to quickly put everyone on mute real quick, and then if you want to talk right now, just go ahead and unmute because we keep getting some echo. So whoever was just chiming in, if you can just unmute yourself to chime back in.
All right. Can you guys see and hear me now?
Yes.
All right.
Now, Kia, did you change outfits from this morning?
No. Still got the same one on. Same blue shirt.
Oh, it looks black now. Different lighting, different time of day, maybe.
All right. Yeah, it's this lamp here in my my daughter's room. It feels like one of those lamps to where you kind of heat French fries in, And so, it, depending on how you move it, it changed the color of my shirt. So, but oh well. I'm just happy you guys can hear and see me.
Is that a new diet mechanism? Sit under that lamp? Because I could use
Yes.
that.
Yeah, lost about 20 pounds.
I was gonna say that maybe Blue Jeans adds 20 pounds, so that must be our maybe that's it.
I found the upward angle of my laptop adds 20 pounds to my chin.
Oh, that's a good angle. Yes, very good.
Try to prop the books underneath of it as much as possible.
Okay.
Hey, Regina, do you want to test your sound again? I'm seeing your messages in Slack.
And Richard, sometimes the band, I see your messages as well with some difficulties. Sometimes the bandwidth, especially if you're on a phone, if
Sorry,
you're
not
not
Slack,
getting good
yeah.
connection, not Slack, chat.
Sorry. I'm so used to it.
That's why you might be dropping in and out, Richard. Regina, you want to test your
I'm
audio or video?
I don't think I'm dropping in and out. So it must be another Richard.
Richard Sessick from Auburn.
Yeah, different Richard.
Yep. Okay, y'all, it is 1:01 and I have crammed an absolute ton of stuff into this hour. So I'm going to kick us off, and then hopefully most of you have your audio and visual working. It'll work. We'll ask you to be using that during breakout sessions. I do want to call out, I noticed some folks that are on phone may not have the capability of being pushed to breakouts, but we'll try to tackle that when we get to that section of the call. So don't worry about that right now. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to be talking at you guys for like 15 minutes. So if everyone could mute, I'd really appreciate it. And then we'll move into a panel discussion. And then we'll get to breakout sessions. So thank you, everybody, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're very excited to share with you some of the early things that we've been learning. We're very excited also to just be getting input, feedback, learnings, etc. from all of you. So I want to go through to start with our agenda. We're going to spend about 15 minutes. We're going to talk to you guys about some of the takeaways that we have started to gather as we've shifted I-Corps programming and I-Corps methodology into virtual instruction. But we recognize, and I just want to make this clear, we recognize that we are not the experts on this and that we're all having a lot of good learning moments over the past 2 months or whatever it's been. And we want to keep this as open as possible. We do have a lot of people on the call, so we'll try to facilitate that sharing during the breakout sessions. I would ask that you guys also please feel free to ask any questions whatsoever in the chat. We will try to address some of those questions on the call today, but whatever we don't get to, we're going to capture and we'll respond to you in a follow-up email after this call. We're also going to be recording the call today, which we will share with you so that you can kind of grab some of the conversations that are happening and hear from all of your colleagues across the South. So after I, share some of our lessons learned, we're going to have a quick panel discussion. Then we're going to have breakout room sessions where you all will have opportunities to share with one another. And then we'll go ahead and close the call. It is my hope that along with a follow-up email for this call, with the presentation, the recordings, etc., that we will be able to eventually provide you with possibly an even more robust lessons learned paper and or report. So we will continue to take the participants from this call to share content as we go through learnings with regards to moving evidence-based entrepreneurship and I-Corps methodology into virtual settings. Okay, so just to set the stage for y'all, because I have been listening in on quite a lot of these webinars from various sources. I was just listening to one from the Home Depot yesterday. Everybody wants to share their thoughts and what they've been learning as far as shifting things virtually. And I just want to be very clear about what we're going to be covering today. Quite a lot of these discussions that I've been listening in on spend a lot of time talking about the technologies and the tools that are available. Most of those tools and platforms are very similar and have a lot of the same functionality, so I'm not going to spend any time on the discussion of remote delivery tools. We're not going to spend any time on a general discussion of remote learning. So the way that we view this, or what we're talking about today, is that shifting a typical university course to a remote setting or a virtual setting is going to be a bit different than what we are dealing with when we're talking about I-Corps and I-Corps programs and methodology. So we are going to specifically be talking about the remote delivery of I-Corps methodology or the remote delivery of evidence-based entrepreneurship methodology. And we're going to spend a little bit of time today talking about the remote execution of customer discovery. Because I know that's a big question mark for a lot of people, is whether or not customer discovery can still be as impactful when done remotely. Also, I want to point out that I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time focused on the details of how the national cohorts are logistically being run right now. Rather, I'm going to focus on strategies that you guys can bring back to regional cohorts, sites program, or university level programs that you are running. So just to give you a little clarity on where we've been picking up some of our learnings, we had the chance to observe the MIT national cohort, which was moved into a virtual setting, and currently our fearless leader Keith is running a national cohort virtually as well. So these are the first two national cohorts that have been run virtually. We got to observe the MIT, and we are running the second one. So we are really kind of in the process of taking in a lot of information and key learnings about how to do this. Colin, Melissa, and myself are also currently running a program with Georgia Tech Research with GTRI, and it's called STING. And we have, although it's not entrepreneurs, we have a team of research personnel that are going through a professional development program and learning how to use, it's kind of a mix between Hacking for Defense and I-Corps methodology. They're learning how to use evidence-based innovation, evidence-based entrepreneurship to solve real-world problems. We are also in the process of planning and developing a structure for our agenda for a virtual instructor academy next week that we will be hosting. So these are just some of the areas where we've either learned some key lessons or we are trying to implement some early ideas or ways in which to create the same level of impact in an online setting. So to go through a little bit more of what we've learned, again, we're talking event-based programming, we're talking high collaboration, activity, and workshop-based learning, we're talking project and team-based work. That's what we're really focused on, trying to think about how to shift into virtual settings. One of the key things that we keep hearing from individuals, and one of the key things we keep struggling with ourselves, is engagement. So when it comes to the actual instruction of the material or the teaching of the material, in a virtual setting, we see a lot of, or we've heard a lot of concerns about how to maintain engagement with the audience. I wanted to share with you a couple of our key takeaways so far is that, you definitely want to minimize those lecture blocks. So it's not necessarily that you have to turn, your half day or full day kickoff event, that you have to turn it into just a 45-minute session. But rather that, maybe don't run it for too much longer than 3 or 4 hours, but within that time, you're going to want to make sure that you are having a high number of breakouts, a high number of breaks, quite a bit more call and response type of engagement with the audience. And with regards to call and response, we've seen a lot of different techniques being used, whether that's asking for a response in chat or using poll everywhere technology in your presentation, or asking for hand raises on tools like BlueJeans. There's a lot of different ways you can try to engage your audience throughout your lecture. My one big takeaway I would say with this is just make sure that whatever you choose to do, that you practice. Because I have witnessed a few times individuals sort of testing new approaches to engaging the audience on the fly. So just make sure that you're practicing whatever technology you're using to engage your audience ahead of time, and the technique behind it as well. With that, I would also say probably many of your lectures and instructions already have, already have laced within them areas where you ask for a show of hands, or areas where you ask for a conversation from the audience. Just make sure that you're reviewing your lectures and adjusting those moments for virtual. I'd also say the idea of balancing asynchronous and synchronous activity is going to be important. So this seems like a no-brainer, but what I want to say is when you're talking about a class, we've heard a lot more of a heavy lean in the async direction. I think when you're talking about this event-based program where you're hoping to build a community, synchronous is still very much important. But a good way to, as you're trying to trim your agenda from a time perspective and you're trying to bake in a lot of breakouts and breaks so that you can keep your audience engaged, you can leverage the async and the video recorded lectures to try to continue to capture and share all the topics and instruction that you're hoping to share with that audience. But I would say that the synchronous is still very much important in this type of these types of programs because there is a huge community building element to it. So the other thing is to just try to spread your agendas out as much as possible, so shorter blocks and more breaks. Another thing I want to just remind everyone, it's okay to have fun. It's okay to inject some personality. So if you're looking to engagement with your audiences and you're looking to create a sense of community with these cohorts, put in some silliness into your programming. Ask them to dress up in costume for the kickoff or for the close. Add some creativity and some flair and give people a chance to express themselves and to feel like they as an individual can really be a part of the conversation in a fun way. So that ties right into community building and networking. So for community building, it can be really challenging to recreate that environment where people have a chance to bond with one another and form meaningful relationships, not only with their team, but also with the teaching team. So I would encourage that you build in time into your structure that has time for organic chatter, especially in breakout rooms, for example, and breakout sessions. Make sure there's a little bit of time baked in there for people to just talk and get to know one another. Create purposeful networking activities, so actually create time in your agendas for them to get to know each other and to create prompts that help them facilitate those conversations. Definitely encourage networking via chat or set up a Slack channel, some sort of back channel way for them to get in touch very easily, and also during your kickoffs. So coaching, we've seen a lot about coaching, and what we've keep hearing over and over again is the need to shift the tone a little bit. So there's a little bit of a need to tone the tone down. It's kind of the relentlessly direct approach that's traditionally taken in I-Corps doesn't quite come off the same way in a virtual setting as it does in person. We've also been witnessing that's a little bit more challenging to kind of sort of shift from a really relentlessly direct approach to smoothing things over and allowing the room to move forward. So what we're encouraging is that you tone it down a little bit, but not so much that you lose pressure. So a good way to kind of deal with this is to create as much balance in the tone as possible by using your co-coaches, your co-teachers, by teaching the room as much as possible, and by even encouraging peer teaching. So for this, if we've been repetitive about this particular lesson, we might ask another team to try to guess what we're going to say to the current team that we're providing feedback for. And also leverage your office hours to create that balance. So you still want to put some pressure on in the coaching to the room, but maybe scale it back just a little bit. So accountability here. We know that there's been a lot of discussion about whether or not you can kind of expect the same level of accountability when people are not physically in the room with you. So some techniques that I've seen so far is the idea of keeping all the videos on and being able to have that gallery view. Another thought is to call on people randomly after you've like had a breakout session or an activity. Say that you're going to have a share out and you will be calling on people. You can also have peers call on one another, so that takes the pressure off you being kind of the bad guy calling people out. And then I would also say what we heard that people really like is when there's a just-in-time video lecture or asynchronous lecture that's directly followed by some synchronous discussion or Q&A activities. So that way that you don't have to, you can have accountability for them watching a video by having the discussion after the fact, but you don't necessarily have to pressure them to be in a synchronous setting to watch a lecture. Also, anybody going through any of these programs should be there on purpose. They should be wanting to learn. They're entrepreneurs and they should be holding themselves accountable. So remember that. So really quick, when it comes to customer discovery, we've heard quite a lot of conversation about whether or not it can still have the same level of impact when it's done virtually. I would say the short answer to this is no, but it's not so tremendously different. So obviously get out of the building. Now we're getting out of the building virtually speaking. What we have been doing is very heavily emphasizing the need for all of the interviews to be video. So really, you know, as we have in the past, really pushing hard against the idea of a phone call, because they need to be able to, now more than ever, they need to be able to take in those body language cues that help them understand if what the person is saying is in fact accurate. You will lose the ability to observe environments. Obviously, you know, when people were going for in-person interviews in the past, even if not fully intentional, they were oftentimes having opportunities to observe the actual work environment or the problem space that they were engaged with. And this is just not going to be possible, obviously. And so these are the sorts of things that, you know, we'll just have to wait, and the team might consider circling back on when they have an opportunity to be in person. Also here, I would recommend peppering in mapping. So highly encourage people to do those ecosystem maps or those journey maps and start to share that back with some of your interviewees. So by creating a more activity-based interview, I think you can kind of get a little bit more from your customers during that time. Finally, don't be tone deaf. We're all in a pandemic. So I think it's really important for people to remember that the folks that they're interviewing might be dealing with quite a lot. They're wearing multiple hats. Some of them may actually have losses in their families. You know, they might be dealing with some pretty significant job insecurity, or they might have recently lost their jobs. So let's just remember to keep all of that forefront for our teams as they're going through this. So we've heard from some people about, you know, what other qualitative tools could we use? And my comment on that would be, you know, there are other tools out there that people can do from home. There's self-reporting, there's journaling, but they would all still have their limitations, especially since these individuals will be working from home. They won't really be working in their traditional work environments. So depending on the problem space, there's still going to be some significant limitations. We've also heard from folks, the question was, can we start doing surveys and A/B testing now that we can't do in-person interviews? And the answer there is still no. So there are certain, you know, the virtual customer interview can pretty much cover most of our bases in customer discovery, and we just want to continue to encourage our teams to engage with the customer to uncover and gain clarity around the problem itself, not the solution. Okay, so the other question that we keep getting is about recruiting and scheduling interviews. And so I want to say, I'm not going to go through this whole slide because we're a little short on time, but I do want to say that I think there's a little bit of a curve at the beginning. It's a little bit more difficult to get them to do the types of intercept interviews that they've been able to do in kickoffs in the past. They're obviously not able to go to a crowded place and just approach people. If that's a part of your teaching technique, then you're going to want to provide a little leeway for that, a little wiggle room. I would highly encourage just a lot of pre-communication about what the interview expectation will be for your program so that they can have the opportunity to schedule things prior to that kickoff event. And just think of it, it's just a little bit harder for them to ramp up. We've seen teams are able to get there. It's just that first week tends to be a bit of a struggle. So if you can give them a little bit of heads up that they're expected to get some interviews done, and really encourage them to get those things on the books, that would be probably the best approach in this instance. Okay. I just want to say that just generally though, with regards to whether or not if they can hit the interview numbers, jury's really still out. We've seen some programs where that's been a struggle. We've witnessed other programs where that's not been so much of a struggle. It may have just been the first day where they have the perception that it's going to be much harder, when in fact it ends up being easier because they're not traveling. So there's been a little bit of thoughts and perspectives on both sides of either it's going to be harder for me to hit the numbers of interviews or it's going to be easier. So we've been seeing both. So I don't think you should necessarily let up on that pedal, but just try to talk your teams through what their challenges might be. So other quick observations. Definitely detailed communication and planning ahead of time is really important. You definitely want to build more time into your schedules, more times for breakouts and breaks. Please, please, please review your lectures. Check your lectures for all those call and response moments that you've had in the past. Check your lectures for jokes. The jokes are harder to land when you don't have an audience laughing. So just keep that in mind. And then I would just also encourage you to always have somebody sort of co-managing the program with you so they can help you with the chat. They can help you with any technical difficulties, anything like that might come up. Really quickly, there are a few things that we really just don't have great answers for yet, and that we're hoping that some of this discussion and sharing will get us closer to that. So recruiting of teams for programs, we understand that that's a bit of a concern and a gap, but we don't have a great answer for that yet. I just went through the interviewee recruiting. Again, that's kind of up in the air on whether or not it's a real problem or a perceived problem. The lack of observation, again, that might just be something that we just have to, it's never been a huge part of I-Corps in the past. It's just sort of a secondary benefit of in-person interviews. So we just might have to let that one pause for a moment. Team formation, so the team's ability to get to know and interact with one another is another big gap that I think we can continue to come up with stronger solutions for. The other thing we've noticed is that in the national level, the teams have had time in the past during travel to prep and debrief from their interviews. Now that's no longer something that they're doing verbally with one another as they move about. So we have been encouraging those teams to make sure that they actually schedule time pre and post their interviews to get together as a team to really debrief. Finally, I want to point out that there are still quite a lot of positives. So we've been hearing from people that they feel like the teams are getting more done because they have more time, they're not traveling. We've heard that it's more accessible to more people because it's virtual. Some people have the perception that individuals are actually, in fact, more attentive in a virtual setting. We have certainly seen that people tend to be more casual or get more comfortable in virtual settings. So there have been a lot more openly sharing and more questions. And I think that's all good stuff for these types of programs when people are much more comfortable to raise their hands and add in their input. And last but not least, again, I just want to remind everybody that I think it's really important to help your teams understand that, we can be empathetic. We're all balancing quite a lot. It's a very challenging time for everyone. That goes for the teams that are participating in your programs. That goes for the individuals that we're attempting to interview. So let's just, be kind to one another in these programs. Okay, so with that, I want to move over into our panel discussion. We're a little bit behind time, so we'll probably take about 15 minutes in this panel. And we have with us Sean Carson and Melissa Hefner and Nakia Alicio. I think I'm saying that right. And I'm going to be asking these folks for some key questions. And I'm going to start. So can I get the three of you to just chime in and make sure your audio is working?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm here as well. The dogs are about to bark because the neighbor's taking out recycling, though.
Sean, are
working from
you
home.
with us?
Oh, I see your lips moving, Sean.
Sean, are you muted?
No, I'm not, he says. Here, we'll put my lip reading skills to the test.
Let's see. Sean.
Oh, there goes the dog.
Yeah, it says you're unmuted. Fortunately, we cannot hear you. Well, I'm going to start. Sean, I don't know if you want to try possibly calling back in real quick.
Unplug your headphones maybe and see if we can just hear you.
Can you unplug? Do you have your headphones in? All right, give us 1 second. All right, so while Sean is figuring that out, I'm going to start with you two. So could you both please start just by introducing yourself in 30 seconds or less? Real quick introduction, where you're coming from, and what your experience so far with moving this stuff virtually has been.
I'll let Melissa start.
Yeah, and by experience, I just mean what programs have you been engaged with?
All right, so Melissa Hefner, Georgia Tech's Venture Lab. I'm going to simultaneously be buzzing my dogs while I talk to you. COVID shutdown happened in the middle of my graduate level Tech Ventures course, where we had PhD students and grad students from the College of Electrical and Computer Engineering taking a course on evidence-based entrepreneurship and what entrepreneurship might look like if they go into industry. So we very quickly figured out how to do both synchronous and asynchronous lectures. We held office hours on a weekly basis. So that was baptism by fire. We have also kicked off a virtual program with the Georgia Tech Research Institute, where we were taking 8 teams of 3 people each and a mentor, so 4 total, through this evidence-based methodology to work with problems that they were given from various program sponsors. So it's our first time really testing customer discovery virtually, all lectures virtually, etc. It's been, poor little group has had to be our guinea pigs for that. And then, like Sarah mentioned, we kick off our first ever virtual instructor academy next week. So that will be a 3-day workshop that we're figuring out how to make what is typically a 7 to 8 hour day long workshop, 7 to 8 hour long workshop a day into something virtual where people don't fall asleep or their bottoms don't fall asleep. So that's what we've been doing. And that's just 3 of a few more that we'll be kicking off in the next couple of weeks.
And Nakia, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm Nakia with ATDC at Georgia Tech, and we have been moving a lot of our content, or move all of our content online. And surprisingly, we have seen a lot of increase in activity and people wanting to engage. And so along with implementing Slack into that equation, which has kind of helped to triage questions in the background and just kind of keeping things kind of engaged. And we thought it was going to be a arduous task in being able to do that, but to see the numbers increase and moving into this online environment from a virtual standpoint has been good. Also, I've been doing some virtual, actually on a cohort with Keith for the I-Corps South virtual NSF national team, and it's been good. We've had some bugs and hiccups here and there, but for the most part, it's been pretty seamless, and the teaching team and everyone that's been involved has been, okay with the challenges and the learning curve that we have all had to endure through this quick pivot into this process. I'm also mentoring on the SBIR Phase 1 team that cohort out of Chicago. And that's been going well as well. They're doing a lot of similarity things. There may be a little bit of some content that's been different. But the chats and being active in the chats and the instructors have been doing a really good job and keeping the room, everyone engaged and calling out mentors, calling out TLs to give it an overall learning experience.
Thanks, Nakia. I want to give Sean one more chance to see if his audio is working. Any luck over there? No, I think we might be struggling. So I'm just going to move forward with questions to you two. We got a panel of two.
And Sean, why don't you add stuff in the chat, and maybe Amanda from Georgia Tech could monitor that, and Leah, and we definitely want to get your input. So chime in and chat.
Yes. Okay. So what I wanted to start with, I want to ask you guys, typically entrepreneurship and innovation education tends to be very interactive, very collaborative. What strategies have you been implementing or have you been witnessing being implemented to kind of keep up that level of collaboration and that level of interaction with the teams, either during instruction or for the teamwork that's that they're doing on their own?
Yeah,
so
one
Melissa,
of the things.
Go ahead, Nakia. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah. So one of the things that we commonly use in the room, the red card, green card, if we understand what the team is doing and presenting, and in Zoom that has that yes or no feature, and that's been kind of very heavily used. And then to chime in on the chat, and that's kind of been like I said, very used in the Zoom room, and it's been working really, really well to kind of help with that team engagement from the other teams.
Cool, thank you. Melissa,
Sean is also mentioning breakout rooms. Those can be helpful to keep the conversation going. There's question of video on, video off kind of stuff, and for our Tech Ventures class that Leah and I wrapped up this spring, and that what the current cohort that Colin and Sarah and I are running right now, video on seems to be a big deal. Just being able to put it in the grid view and see everyone, call on folks, make eye contact with them, definitely using the video on as much as we can. I would say office hours are super important, even if it's not something that we typically do with a program. Office hours help you engage with teams in a way that you just can't do when you can't walk around the room and talk to them, right? But you get to know them a little bit better when you're spending some one-on-one time with them.
Awesome. Yeah, so Sean chimed in, and to what you said, Melissa, he mentioned breakout rooms. He's also mentioning the idea of the thumbs up on camera, or the yes/no interaction. I've seen quite a lot of people use the hand raise feature. So all these sorts of ways of keeping your folks engaged. When you guys are thinking about teams and the way that they've talked to you about the recruitment and scheduling of their customer discovery interviews, what have you been hearing, what have you been noticing, and what have you been trying to coach them through or emphasizing with them? Melissa, why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
Okay, full disclosure, I was distracted by a child who needed me to help her unravel some tape. So someone else answer the question.
Go ahead, Nakia. That's all you.
Yeah. So in office hours that I've gotten a lot of teams ask questions about how do we get our interviews and what are some of the best practices and things that we can kind of go through. And I always like to go back to their eco map. Who are you talking to? Why are you talking to that specific person? What do you want to learn from that person, and where are they? And in this professional setting, LinkedIn is going to be your best tool right now, given the situation that we're in. And then crafting, a very appropriate message to, introduce yourself to someone you don't know, but also link it back to you're not selling anything, but hey, you really want to interview them, and here's why. And those are some of the tips that I've been trying to provide the teams. And then some of those non-traditional things just, hey, search through your network, see who is within that second or third that can make a soft introduction for you really quick. And emphasize the point that Melissa mentioned earlier about do it on video. Try not to get so reliant on phone because video kind of gives you that you're looking face to face, and you can see if the person understands the question, don't understand the question, and you can kind of rephrase it a little bit, and it gives you that true honesty, because they can say anything behind, on a phone, and you don't know if they're telling the truth or not, but that visual aspect is very important. So those are some of the tips that I try to implement in office hours when they ask those specific questions.
Yeah, and I'm reading Sean's notes in chat, and he and I both would second and third this LinkedIn idea. We always tell our teams that, but right now it seems to be critical. I used it in office hours with a team, and I said, hey, even if you can't find contact info on LinkedIn, use their name to start to then track them down through Google. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything else.
Yeah, his other comment, Melissa, was just the idea that you can, since it is all virtual, hearing people kind of have that perception that that's going to be a real challenge for them. Realistically, they have the ability to blast hundreds of people, right? Hundreds of people to try to line up these calls and these interviews at once. And so there's opportunity for them to think about the recruitment of customer discovery in that way.
So Sarah found and shared with us this morning an article or a blog post that Steve Blank has put together about customer discovery in this COVID age. And it was perfect timing that she posted it to our group Slack chat this morning, because I used it with a team in office hours because they were really struggling to get people to be responsive to them. And one of the things that Steve talks about in that article is, let's go ahead and own the situation at hand, right? Let's go ahead and call out, hey, I hope you're doing well. I hope your family is safe. I know that these times are a little uncertain. Our work schedules are wonky. Here's why we're continuing to try to do customer discovery even right now, and just sort of own it and be a little bit more empathetic perhaps than we typically would in an email request for a conversation. And I'm hoping they're going to have some luck with that this afternoon, because they've had a lot of people ignoring their emails. Tim, to your question in chat, I have fortunately not experienced low bandwidth with people with videos. So yay. Sorry.
I think, Tim, to your question, that might go back to, one of the other points in the article that Steve had written was that, quite honestly, there are going to be some things that just have to happen after we come out of this. And if there are certain, depending on what the problem space is that the team is dealing with, there may be certain customer discovery components that they just cannot tackle and should consider tackling at a later date. So if their main customer are rural farmers, that don't really have great bandwidth and they're having a hard time reaching them, then obviously we might have to have a deeper discussion about when it would be appropriate to engage in full-on customer discovery. Before we move on to another question, I just want to also point out, again, back to this idea of kickoff interviews and being able to recruit for those and intercept interviews. So catching people on the street, catching people at conferences, at trade shows. I think sometimes people have the perception that if they're scheduling a virtual interview, it needs to be 60 minutes long. It needs to be an hour. It needs to be 30 minutes, because that's what we're used to scheduling meetings. And I have been encouraging teams, especially in the beginning, it's okay to ask for a 10 or 15-minute virtual conversation. They're used to having those kinds of short form interviews on a conference room floor. They can ask for that small amount of time as well to try to kick off their interview activity. So, Melissa and Nakia, I wanted to talk just generally about customer discovery, aside from just getting the interview numbers. What has been your biggest concern about shifting customer discovery to an entire virtual approach? And what have you been trying to emphasize with teams?
Yeah, there are some things that, from a customer discovery standpoint, certain particular segments that maybe having some observational customer discovery is very important, especially if you're doing something specific in something in biotech or biotechnology, and you're needing to get into a specific lab and just really not just hear how they're doing things, but to specifically see how a cell manufacturing process actually works or happens, to kind of give you that deeper questions. And so knowing that option is taken away, encouraging them to, if you're going to talk to that specific person, really have a good understanding of the jobs that they're trying to get accomplished and their specific ecosystem and their job, so that you can have very laser focused questions, because certain elements of the customer discovery is taken from you. So trying to encourage, if you're in a specific segment or sector that you need to physically see the job, then you got to really come up with some really good questions to really extract the data you're looking for.
Thank you for that. Melissa, do you have things that you've been thinking about with teams?
Yeah, so, and Sean wrote this in chat too, those day in the life of interviews, and then his next question is, are we still really trying to get to 100? So two different things. Day in the life of interviews, are really hard. And what we've noticed with our Georgia Tech Research Institute folks is that, and I don't know, maybe if Nakia, if this would work in your biomed space as well, but to just sort of gain a better understanding of the ecosystem without sort of getting into the details with someone that they're trying to do an interview with.
Right.
And this has been a little controversial, but some teams are doing it well. They've been talking to folks that are no longer in that space, some retired folks even, to just sort of understand, hey, you were a part of the Air Force Reserves 2 years ago. Can we spend a little time with you, since we can't be on base, uncovering what are we missing by not being actually on base and seeing things? And so they can have those kind of interviews with folks and then get into the sort of the meatier stuff once they have a fuller understanding of what's happening there on the base. Sean, to your point about 100 interviews, well, I know that in the national program, they're exceeding numbers. I don't know, Nakia, if you know off the top of your head what the numbers are. Maybe Keith put it in chat, but let's see. The current
at
counts are 150. Yep. So, I mean, I think there is something to say about the fact that teams are not having to travel around to get these interviews, so you can line them up back to back to back to back. People, I don't know what it's like at y'all's houses, but here it's either feast or famine, right? I've either got a day full of calls and don't bother me with anything else, or I'm like, got a little time. So,
right.
People can be a little bit more accessible with a virtual interview than you would necessarily trying to get into their office.
Yeah, both cohorts that I'm in right now are tracking. They're getting the interviews, and people are, they have a captive audience, and they need to just be very strategic on how to take advantage of the time with this captive audience, and just really understand the mechanics. And I think the biggest thing is getting them to focus on trusting the process, trusting the mechanics, trusting the content, trusting why the teaching team lays out the content in the way that it does, to help them understand how to get specific interviews. And I know that Farzine did a great presentation on how to get interviews, how to track these people down, trade shows and conferences that have moved online. And a lot of these trade conferences that have moved online, they actually have a meet and greet within their specific app. So you can set up office hours to meet with people right inside the app or the conference. And so just those little tricks and tips to just kind of take advantage of.
Yeah, thank you both for that. I think that, it seems as though it's a bit more of a perception of a hurdle than an actual hurdle. And just kind of helping the teams, especially at the beginning of your programs, to work through that first slog of getting the interviews starting to be scheduled and trying to prep them ahead of entering the programs to hopefully have some things scheduled before kickoff. So guys, this has been great. And Sean, thank you for chiming in and adding your input on chat. I wish we had more time to keep the panel discussion going because it's very helpful. But I do want to give everybody an opportunity to participate in some breakout sessions. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to push everybody into a breakout session. And we are going to circle back at 1:55, and we'll just do a very quick close around 1:55. So each breakout session room is going to have a moderator, so you really don't need to do much. I'm just going to push you into those sessions, and we're going to ask you to select one of these questions to discuss as a group. Don't worry, your moderator will have that slide that I just shared. And just for those of you that might not, if there's any technical issues, just please feel free to chat me and I'll do my best to get you into where you need to be. Okay. So I'm going to start the breakout session now. You should see a pop-up that'll push you there.
I am unmuted, I think. Thanks, Tim. Well, I am back. I think I accidentally disconnected from Blue Jeans instead of being kicked into the right room. But when I rejoined, it kicked me here. So, welcome to the breakout. So I see a few names that I know and some guests, and I figure y'all all don't know each other. Let's take a second and we're going to introduce each other or introduce ourselves to each other. Pick a question. Maybe grab a room leader to take some notes and read back out of the room and discuss that question, and then we can jump back into the main session and do a readout at the end. So, Tim, you want to kick us off?
Sure.
I know you're muted.
So, yeah. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay. Tim Martin. I'm the Associate Director of Startup Program at University of Georgia. I'm one of the lead instructors for our iCourse site.
Welcome, Tim. Someone jump in. Glenn, Marty, those are the only two names I see or know.
Okay, this is Glenn Witchard, University of South Florida. I'm one of the iCourse instructors.
Welcome, Glenn.
Thank you.
And let's see, I see Siri and Marty, but I think, Siri, you're unmuted. You want to go? I don't hear anything. And Marty, do you want to unmute and introduce yourself? All right, well, I don't know if I have the ability to unmute people. Does not appear so. So if y'all want to unmute and say hi, feel free to. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and get started because I know our time is limited and we want to be respectful of that. The three questions that Sarah put to us prior to the breakout room. One is, what do you think will be some of the biggest gaps in customer discovery and what might be some ways to manage those gaps? What has been done, or what do you anticipate to be the greatest challenge of teaching evidence-based entrepreneurship virtually, and do you have thoughts on how to address it? The third question is, how have you, or how might you bake in community building and networking among students' teams or in between teams of the teaching team, trying to build that rapport? And the fourth question was, what has been your favorite part of moving to a virtual format? What will you keep doing once you go back to in-person? Any of those questions are particularly interesting to y'all? Tim, Glenn, Marty, Siri, anybody else, y'all feel free to unmute and say something. I just can't hear you right now. I apologize. Y'all can also type in the chat if you want to chime in there, and I'll read it out.
What was the fourth question again?
What's been your favorite part of moving to the virtual format, and what will you keep once things are in person again? Tim, are any of these super applicable to where y'all are at UGA right now, or?
Yeah, I mean, so we haven't done a new cohort since we went home.
Yeah.
So we finished ours like right before spring break, so it was perfect timing, I guess.
That's great timing for y'all.
So we had our, we ended up, I think, with 13 teams that finished the first week of March. But we have done a couple of other things that we've been involved with that weren't I-Corps, but basically mirror the same process. So we've done a hackathon, and we're doing a design sprint right now, which basically just an extended hackathon with a little bit more customer discovery built in.
Got it.
And one of the things that we may take from that is recruiting subject matter experts to the cohort. We got, I think, 18 or 20 people come in and talk for like 3 or 4 minutes about their area during the kickoff for the design sprint. Basically, is a generation of these are the problems that I see in my daily work, whether it's at a hospital or at a restaurant or whatever.
Okay.
So I thought that was pretty good, and it really generated a lot of interaction. And then from
Yeah.
those SMEs, then we reached out to find other people. So to kind of
Did they largely kind of help with that kickoff, or did they actually get to stay involved throughout the rest of the cohort, or the teams interacting with them on a regular basis, or?
Some were. So some have stuck with it and have kind of helped to grease the wheels to introducing them to other people.
Okay.
And that's been really valuable. So I think that might be a way we help prime the pump of getting interviews, is if they don't already have an expert on their team, or it might be a researcher who doesn't know the commercial side of it, if we can recruit those people in. And because we're virtual now, basically no limit in terms of reach. Like, I think that's probably the biggest thing I've seen with everything, is that you can get people from all over. Like, we've talked to people, and then I'm also doing a national I-Corps out of San Francisco, the Bay Area one, as a mentor. And we talked to someone from the Netherlands this morning, and we talked to someone in Australia on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So it's like there's no limit right now on where we can reach. It isn't always repeatable, but
right.
Yeah.
Well, and
that's always
interesting.
been a big struggle.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. We've had a few teams throughout I-Corps. I know I had one team that was in one of the cohorts I taught that was really good at chasing international interviews, but by and large, our experience has been that's very hit and miss depending on the team. And it probably feels much more accessible because everyone's used to these video calls right now. Huh. Glenn, any experience out of USF that's similar? What's your favorite part of going to this virtual format? What are you going to keep?
Well, we found when you're doing the team presentations and it's really not much different than the in-person. We've had good interaction with the teams. That's just something about our experience. We have had some challenges when we've got teams that are working on more consumer-related technologies, where in the past you'd lose and you'd go in front of and talk to someone looking at storm windows. So that is something that people are not able to do now for interviews.
Is that something you think you're going to keep when you go back to a face-to-face format?
Repeat that, please.
I was just curious from that stuff you've seen in virtual formats. Is that something you're going to try to keep or encourage people to do once you're back in a face-to-face format?
I mean, finding the interviews and
some of the methods that they're using now that might be different from
presentations.
Yeah.
We've just had huge challenges getting interviews.
Okay, got it.
Remotely, because again, if you're doing things that are consumers, they pretty much go to their neighbors, people they know, and then try to go through networks and that way. So again, a lot of the interviews are people that they already know, so you really don't know the quality of those interviews.
Yeah, no, we've had that experience.
So Right. And if you're looking at more of these consumer products, I think we're kind of at a loss for, how to do things if you can't really be face to face and, get out there on the ground and go, into the restaurant and start asking people questions.
Yeah, not having the intercept interviews has been a challenge for some of our teams as well. And we've really encouraged them to move from relying on the casual run-into conversations to being a lot more aggressive about pursuing different types of conversations with people. And that could be, hey, let's tell us about this process, very specific questions that they're trying to answer. It's a lot harder to schedule a 5-minute interview that you're going to bump into somebody, but I hear you. At times, that's really tough.
Right. I mean, we had one team that, evidently the neighborhood, link that, they've got, help your neighbor or whatever. So that has really been the only one that's been kind of successful when we're looking for, again, more of what I would say consumer type people to talk with.
Yeah. Marty, I see you might have unmuted in Blue Jeans. You want to try and say hi?
Hey, unmuted. This is Marty from East Carolina University, and we have a site program here at our institution. Much like the other speaker, we had finished up our spring cohort right before we all had to leave and stay-at-home order. So we kind of slid under the wire there. So I don't have any experience on what's worked and what's not worked yet. We had previously put all of our content on a dashboard, an online dashboard for the teams to access, and we'd opened up each week with the content for the week that was required in sort of that flipped classroom.
All right, y'all. How are the breakout sessions?
Are you? It's just Sarah. Hey, Sarah.
Yes. Hi.
How are you?
Good.
No, I didn't know if we were being pulled back into the main session and a bunch of people were about to join, or if we were.
Yes, they should be. You guys are back in the main session, though. Did you know that?
We might have always been the main session.
Okay.
I don't know if we ever left.
Maybe you were always in the main session. Sorry.
I mean, I just know that these people are here still, so
Okay.
Hi, Colin.
Hello.
It's Katerina.
Katerina, how are you?
Joining soon.
I'm good.
Everyone's coming back. Tim, Glenn, Marty, thank you for.
Yeah, if I can just add one thing, and that
Sure.
maybe to the broader group, is now that NSF has unleashed this new I-Core supplement for sites, so we can get additional funding to launch more of the virtual programs going forward. They're hoping that ideally the sites will be able to fall semesters to any of the suggestions that these teams have that could allow us to submit competitive proposals for the supplements would be helpful.
Thank you for that, guys. We're all back in the main session now, so I hope the breakout sessions went well and that you were able to share some ideas. We've got a couple minutes left on the call. I was hoping to actually call and get some share outs from each of the groups, but I think given the time, we will not have time to do that. Instead, I just wanted to, thank everyone for being here and share just one more couple quick things. We had a lot of people ask questions about asynchronous content that would be shared, and I know that there are the existing Steve Blank videos for this methodology, but there is an effort underway to actually create a fresh set of videos. So Keith, I don't know if you want to quickly chime in on that and let us know where that stands, because there were quite a few questions regarding asynchronous resources.
Actually, very glad to talk about that. It's simply the case that those Steve Blank videos were quite amazing when they were first recorded about 8 years ago now. And now what's happened is the curriculum of I-Core and the curriculum in general has drifted from those points to find a lot more nuance, and it's expanded in different areas. And so there's a subcommittee of the I-Corps National Curriculum Committee that is looking at exactly what we want to, what needs to be changed, what needs to be replaced. But the main idea is to bring all of the diversity of the instructors of the national program into the voicing of those important videos. And so we intend to have a large number of the current active national instructors record the content and then have an editor put those things together with different people making different points. And so it's going to be quite an undertaking. NSF is fully committed to having it available because NSF has essentially said that all of the national I-Corps programs will be done virtually through the year 2021.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, Keith. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So we will, as we get more information, for that, we'll continue to share out to the network. Again, I just wanted to thank everyone for being on the call, thank the panelists. Thank you for, doing the breakout rooms. I know it was a bit, we jammed a lot into an hour, so appreciate everyone sticking with us. And we will be sharing the deck, the recording, the chat, and a summary of lessons learned. We'll also try to respond to the questions from the chat, as well as questions that you guys posed when you registered for the event. If you have any questions, more immediate questions, or want to have a discussion, a more in-depth one-on-one discussion with anybody on the I-Corps South team, please shoot me an email. I am more than happy to set any of that up for you guys. So it is 2:01, so I stole another minute from y'all, but I just wanted to say thank you again. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it, and please continue to share to the network any key lessons that you're learning as you're moving programs virtually.
Thank you, Sarah.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.
Y'all have a great day.
Bye.
For my baseball fans, MLB does appear to be finalizing their 3-division plan, so y'all hold fast.
Oh, thank
Baseball
goodness.
is coming.
Thank
Baseball
the
is coming.
Lord.
Hey, Colin, you got the radio voice, and it looks like you got the radio microphone there, man. You look like you're in a studio.
Just the office, man.
Sean, your audio works.
Yeah, it worked in our breakout room. Woohoo!
Look at that.
That's awesome.
Should have just pushed you to a breakout room earlier.
So this is Sean Carson signing out. So long.
Thanks for being on our panel.
See you, Sean.
Yeah.
Bye,
See ya.
Charleston.
Bye, Sean.
Charleston,
Bye,
have a good
Charleston.
one. See you,
Thanks.
Reese.
Bye, Charleston.
Hey, Colin, I may follow up with you about that call, that webinar on Monday. I'll shoot you an email. Either me or Dina will shoot you an email about that.
Okay. Let us know.
All right.
Look forward to it.
See you later.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Hey, we could have a very fast chat about this if you want to just make sure everybody that's not us is off of here.
Okay, and I stopped.